In the theatre, once you're out there with the audience, it's just you and the audience. The director and the other people may get furious with what you're doing, but they can't do anything about it at that moment. It's a direct communication between the storyteller and the story listener. In film, you have no responsibility or control like that. You know, you really don't. It's completely up to the editor and the director what they use, and so you just got to try and be in the present moment as much as you can, every take and from whatever angle that you're being filmed in.
I think if you aim really, really at the present, if you avoid intellectual forms, I have nothing against the intellect, but you've got to aim at that
emotional core.
Well, it's emotional. It's emotional. It's intellectual. There's something that's a gift. Something that there's a poetic, combination of these other elements. You'll find it only in the present connection between people, in the space between, and really by letting the audience be part of it.
Talking about how you do something, whatever that is you're going to do, can be helpful. It can also build up a big expectation of how it must be. And then sometimes what it actually is repressed by that expectation, which has come from your mind, of how it should be. And actually, for me, I find playing, getting up and playing, and finding what comes spontaneously when I'm with the other actor and really speaking with them, that's a more fruitful way for me to find out what to do. So I like to just get up and play, even when I don't know what I'm doing, and find out by making mistakes. So to some degree, the work in rehearsals is like preparing the ground for planting a bunch of vegetables. You just got to turn it, make sure it's fertilized, and plant the things at the right depth, make sure it's watered. And then the things you planted come up, and a load of other things you hadn't, sometimes weeds, come up as well. So the exercise is really just turning them round and trying to keep them happy with the questions rather than leaping to answers. And hopefully those questions remain into the performance with you. A story I regularly tell them is about visiting Miles Davis in the 80s and seeing Miles Davis play at the Royal Festival Hall. And Miles Davis played the whole concert like this. Occasionally he maybe turned a little bit, but otherwise... And his other musicians were there, and I thought, that's very strange. Is he very shy? Or does he not want to... he wasn't out there kind of selling it and playing the thing. And then I realized he wasn't presenting his music. He was inviting us to, like a rehearsal, that they were going to create music. What they like to do was make music. Yeah. And we were able to just come and be there. And they might make mistakes or whatever, but how much more special to be just in a room with Miles Davis and his friends making music, rather than them presenting the best bits of what they, think should be presented. And so I've always thought, well, that's how theatre should be too. It should be creative. It is a little bit like training, because I'm very keen that they're always speaking to try and affect the other person, to try and change the world, either by affecting what the other person is doing or wants them to do, or by releasing something that's pent up in themselves, which needs to be expressed. But they're never saying anything in order to illuminate you about, oh, that's a big theme, or that's what the play is about. It's a play. It's a play, and it should be played at some level like a sport is played. If you went to see the Wimbledon final, and they had practiced for weeks and weeks and weeks, so that when one of them hits it over there, they've practiced for a long time, that the other player goes to that way by mistake and then goes, oh, it's coming this way, and then hits it back and then dives in and does the roll. And they might be, if they practice for years and years, they might be really good, and it might at times be convincing that it was a real match. But why bother? Why not just go out and play a real match? And so and have the excitement of not knowing who's going to win. And I feel if we as actors play that way, play innocently and in a childlike fashion, not knowing how the story is going to come out, not knowing how the scene is going to end, then we actually will convince you, even those of you who've seen the play many times and have favorite performances of it, there's a kind of magic that takes place that you will come to feel that it's happening now for the first time. And I don't feel the plays are lectures. I feel they're meant to be experiences where you can all experience something that might be rather fearful or dangerous or overwhelming in your own lives. So I want them to really play, and when you hear the play, they're allowed to stand wherever they want. They move in different places, and in my favorite scene, which is the big church scene in this play, it happens in a different way every night. As long as they're trying to, as long as they're connected with what they need as characters, and they're trying to get what they need, then it will all come out right, in my mind. You may enjoy intellectual ideas about the play. You may enjoy emotional feelings you have during the play. You may enjoy just the clothing and the sound of it, the sensuality of the play. There are many, many different ways to experience it. Our job is not to confine those, but really to come out and, to say to be or not to be. That's the question. And none of you say anything back to me, so that is the question. I once said that line, you've probably heard this, I tend to feel I'm repeating myself these days, but I once was playing that play in Pittsburgh, and I was very pawsy as a young actor, and I came out, in my pajamas, very, very... and it was in a smaller theatre where people were very close, like you are in the front row, in a horseshoe theatre in Pittsburgh, and I said, to be or not to be. And I paused like that, and a lady and said, turned to her husband right next to him, and she said, "That is the question." And she said it quite loudly. So I had no choice but to say to her, that is the question.
I really like my theatre to be different every evening. I know everyone says that, but I do ask the other actors to be different each evening, and I'm relatively different as well. And these young actors are very brave and do lots of different things with me, so it's very live, so it's a very spontaneous experience.
Are you an actor who just gets great reviews all the time?
I don't read them, so I don't know.
They're all terrible.
I think when
you couldn't show your head.
You don't. You don't want to know. You don't want to look at any of them, huh?
No, no. I don't even read interviews I give now anymore.
Really? Why is that?
I don't know. I find it confusing, distracting.
Makes you self-conscious about the performance, perhaps, if someone describes it in a certain way.
The reviews, the reviews. I don't. It's not that I hate that business. It's a separate, complementary business, and it's good to have people talking about the shows and discussing it. That's great, but they're not. Yeah, they make you self-conscious, and I suppose they're to do with an event that happened the night that reviewer came.
All right.
But for me, the crucial thing is to be present each evening, and reading a review can put a kind of cling film between you and the audience, I find, of you having a impression of something that really happened a few weeks ago or a few nights ago. Yeah. But if I met a reviewer and he wanted to talk to, or she wanted to talk about the play, that's great.
You would
I'll talk to anyone about it, because then I can see in their eyes what type of person they are,
right.
Whether they have, and what personally they're taking as their personal connection to the play. But reviews are written as an apparently objective or a authoritarian view of it, and I don't know what the person's agenda is.
Right.
Probably one of the main agendas for the person is to write something that's snappy and snazzy enough that they keep their job at the New York Post.
Is that possible?
And let's confess it's true.
And great that they should. Great that there should be great writing out there that's matching and stirring debate about things.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's a separate job to my job.
I don't know, I find people come up and say things, about competing as actors, and I know that it's necessary to make a show out of it, but those actors are so good, I would be happy just to be... I feel like more I'm a spokesman when you win than something that's better than the other nominees. And I know that there are so many wonderful nominees just outside the five of us, Idris Elba and Paul Dano and all kinds of actors too, so don't take it too seriously.
I feel that just the stories that are being fed us, the stories of what will make us happy, of what are the important issues that we should be focusing on, as a society, to paying our economic debts and all this stuff, it is just has created a desert in people's souls. Yeah. And the necessary things of life are necessary, but they are not what they're not, I don't believe, why we're here from birth to death. We need something larger, we need larger stories, mythological stories that touch upon the soul's need for experience in life, something deeper, something more mysterious.
Than an austerity program.
I think the government and the business world don't want us to think those things, because then I don't think we'll work so hard, because we'll see that where does work end you? Where, no one dies thinking I should have spent more days in the office.
But I completely agree with that. I think if we're dealing with a present crisis with this play, the present crisis we're dealing with began 300-400 years ago, when science took over from any kind of sort of ritualized religion in our lives to explain what it is that we're doing here, and was supposed to provide us entirely with our sense of meaning.
And in fact took away our sense of mystery.
I think so,
belief.
Because I think that if you just have the idea of logos dominating the space that's been put in our beings for the soul, for the spirit, for something that we're going to need to answer questions that can't be answered by how much something weighs, or why empirically it's there.
And we're not talking about organized religion versus science. We're talking about more the psyche and the need for the need to encounter the major things that happen in your life, of births and deaths and loves and griefs and joys, and these things, I think, the young people are always very healthily searching for before they get swallowed up. But the pressure on them now to be swallowed up quickly and become what's the word, useful, or practically a part,
productive members of the society.
Yeah, those old stories are hard to conform. They're hard to make conform. I think if you keep in contact with the history and the older mythological stories, they're not productive. They're not functional. They're not going to get you a job, at Walgreens. But they keep the road curvy and spirally, rather than all this thing to make the road as straight as possible from A to B.
That's
a quick journey, but it's a terribly boring journey, and you will be very sad when you die.
What's essential? So much stuff is sold to us as stuff that will make us happy or fulfilled in our lives, give our lives purpose, and a lot of it just isn't. A lot of it's really actually just an attempt to get money from us, or get us to do something for someone else. I heard a great teacher the other day who was saying, 1 million people a day die in their sleep. 1 million people every evening, every night time die. So when you wake up in the morning, the first thing is check, oh, I'm alive. Good, that's a result. That's a result. And then if you think there are probably 10 million people who are affected by the 1 million people who die, so the next thing, look around, the people you love, people who are close, are they all okay? Yeah, great. It's a good day. It's a good day. We all go around, I certainly do, thinking I'm immortal, that it'll last forever. And therefore you get distracted by a lot of things that maybe aren't that essential to the intimacy and love of another human being, the love you can have with an animal, the beauty of the plants, the beauty of the seasons and things that are really givens. One get very distracted and spend a lot of money and waste a lot of time chasing a lot of other things, which is fun. I mean, I'm not a Puritan. I like all that stuff, but it's good to remember that you don't really need it necessarily, and some of it really leads to an increased anxiety and fear. And these people with their communities and their ancient wisdom and thoughts, you come out of the film just feeling gently happy. I saw it a couple of days ago, and I still feel a certain glow oh, I really love my wife and I really love my daughter, and it's really I'm really lucky, you know. So it has a nice affirming thing like that.